What's going on? So, first and foremost, this past weekend, as I'm recording this, was the 4th of July, where we celebrated the 250th anniversary of the greatest nation in the world, America. Or, as the locals say, apostrophe, America. Okay? If you're watching this after the fact, and this past weekend wasn't the 4th of July, and it wasn't the 250th anniversary of the United States, the greatest nation in the world, celebrate it now, today. Anyway, even if you're not from America. Okay, so I had a great time. Especially diving more into like history this past weekend because it was the 4th of July and everything was like the 250th and how we got here and why we still are around. Like we're still young compared to like the rest of the world. But the idea that all this stuff came from a couple of people who made like an audacious claim that they could be independent from like a national, like a superpower, which was Britain at the time. So, anyways, history. It was a great time. The 4th of July. So, there's several things that happened over this weekend, and a couple of the topics I've been thinking about when it comes to dance life balance that I learned kind of this past weekend, and I'm going to talk to you about today. But first and foremost, my name is Joel Casanova. Well, I guess I already said first and foremost for the 4th of July. So second most, my name is Joel Casanova, and I'm the creator and founder of Beat Hunter Dance. This talk show exists to help your dance journey be healthy, productive, and 100% yours. That's the whole deal. It's been the whole deal, and it will stay the whole deal until it changes, which I don't think it will. But the whole point is you have the ability to make your dance journey healthy and productive and 100% yours. These are possibilities that you have when it comes to your dance journey. The topics that I talk about in this talk show help you either do one of those things or all three of those things, and depending on what you need in your dance journey as you are existing right now, you're going to add those things into your life, specifically through your dance journey, which is exactly what I'm talking about today, the dance life balance. Dancing is a very, very unique art form because in the art form, we are growing ourselves constantly, right? The tool for dance is our body. It is not just a physical experience. It's not like working out. You can just check your brain out and just start kind of like hammering at, I don't know, a weight or a thing or an exercise, right? That still takes some mental ability, but dance takes mental, emotional, social, physical, artistic, like all the parts of the body, all the parts of the mind, all the parts of the person, all the parts of the heart are all involved in dance. All of them. And so there's three topics I'd like to talk to you about that where you find yourself like, if I do it from dance, it helps this part of my life. And I do it in life, it helps this part of dance. And with the caveat saying that you could totally put up a wall and segregate your life and like compartmentalize your life into a whole different series of cubicles where each part of your life doesn't touch the other part of your life. But that's a whole different issue. You shouldn't do that. Don't compartmentalize your whole life into a bunch of boxes. Some things need to bleed over into other things. In this case, dancing and life. So, the first one is fitness. That's like the most obvious one. When you're dancing, you are getting fitness, right? You're connecting your coordination to everything that's happening. Like, you're working your cardiovascular system. Your heart gets stronger. Your lungs get stronger. You're understanding how to hold your body weight in space. Like you're gaining control over the tool that you have in a very specific way, because in dance we sometimes do regular things that you can apply to life, and sometimes we do things that are like you wouldn't ever do outside of the dance class. Like this is specifically for this piece of choreography. There's no reason for you to do this anywhere in the rest of your life for any reason. But it's like running with ankle weights. If I can do this complicated movement with my body, if I'm just like trying to be coordinated in life and like hold something while doing something else with my other hand, I'm able to control my body because I've done that with dance in a more complex way. I'm isolating my hand here and I'm moving my body, and then my other arm does something else while this hand is still in front of me, still, right? So isolations, control, contracting your muscles, relaxing your muscles. You can consciously relax yourself, and then you can also consciously tighten yourself in dance, which helps you in the fitness area, right? When you're trying to do things that require more strength. The other way is also applicable. By working out strictly, you're going to help your ability to dance. A perfect example of this is, like for example, the first one is dancing for fitness, right? I was hitting puberty as I first started dancing, like on an intense scale in a competition team. So between puberty and dancing, I never had like a physically awkward phase, like roughly. I'm saying physically, like I was like lanky and couldn't control my body. There's this point where like when you hit puberty and you get taller and you're like, I've never had this much body before, right? And so it's literally you're trying to understand your body. Because I dance for fitness, I never had a point where I was out of control of my body because I was constantly training myself to understand my body. So I might have been like mentally or like socially awkward, but physically it never happened because I was jumping into something that required me to control my body, specifically dancing. The other way is also applicable when you're doing fitness for your dancing. I do backup dancing for a pop singer in this area. So I'm her choreographer, and as well as I'm her backup dancer with another one of my students who now became my coworker, I guess. So the first time we ever did a gig with each other, it was at the ocean front. I live in Virginia Beach. We have events that happen over the summer. There's a bunch of different things that are happening, including performances from artists. So we are there on the ocean front on like a stage where everyone can just walk by and see and then stop and hang out and enjoy the show. It was such a long show. It was so long. It was so long because it was like 3 different sets and each set is like an hour. And so I had like, we were basically dancing for like 3 hours straight with like 15-minute breaks in between. Right. So it was like 7:30 to like 11. It was insane. It was crazy. So at that level, Nick, my student, and I are just exhausted. We're just like sweating through every piece of clothing we have brought to our outfits. And in between that first time, we did it 3 times over the summer. This year we had we have 2 performances, and we've done some other things. But in between the last summer where we did those performances and this summer, I started working out on a regular basis and like getting my butt in the gym, right? And so I was like working out just for myself. Honestly, I never even thought about it connecting to dance. I was like, I want to work out and start doing these things for myself. And when I did the first performance this summer, and we did the same exact setup, 3-hour set, 3 1-hour sets with like only 15-minute breaks in between, which is enough to like change clothes and go to the bathroom and drink water and then go back on stage, essentially. And so I realized by the end of the second set, I was just getting to, how do I say this? I noticed how tired I was last summer after the first hour, and it just got worse afterwards. I've started feeling tired after the second set this year. And so then I was just a regular tired at the end of the third set. And so because of the fitness, I was able to actually like keep up and like with my own schedule essentially. And so if you're doing both, those are areas where your life merges one with the other. So the first one, like if you're dancing for fitness, that's good. But if you work out, then you can keep up with your dancing at the same time. And so you're physically getting fit from both ends. That's an area where your dance and your life are balancing each other. Okay. The second one is mental, right? So there are these things that are, the second category is mental, where they merge with each other. So in dance, there's a brain body connection. So sometimes when you're doing choreography or you're learning a dance or you're learning a specific technique, it really takes a lot more mental energy than you expect. It's like, I can physically do this, but my mind is trying to get me to coordinate what's going on. And this is less fitness. It is to do with your mind and your body, but it's less about physically pushing yourself, like in the fitness aspect, and more about mentally understanding what's going on. So absorbing choreography, retaining choreography, and then having the coordination to do the choreography are all very mental things. You're watching someone, they show you something, a technique or a piece of choreography, a segment of choreography. You have to understand what's going on. You have to like reverse engineer it in your head, right? Because they're doing it and now you're trying to match it in your own body, right? And then you have to remember what's happening when you actually play the music. And then you have to continue adding more pieces on as it gets longer because you're learning a longer piece of choreography. And then you now have to like figure out coordination wise how to do specific moves that are complicated. Because if I'm doing all the different parts of my body and I'm like hitting them in different orders, you're like, okay, knee and then shoulder and then wrist and then hand and then wrist and then knee and then elbow and then shoulder. Anyway, you're like trying to keep it in order. Or even like doing like an arm wave. We're going fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder, shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers. You can move all those parts individually, but then to put them in a specific order and tell your body to do it in that specific order allows you to do a wave that looks good or you have good technique for the wave. That's really mental. A lot of it's really mental. Like your body's learning, but your mind is the one that's trying to understand what's going on. So the actual mental side of dance is really complex. Then you have like the mental side outside, right? So if I'm like understanding different, like if I'm reading, right? Or if I'm, let's go with the realm of storytelling, right? So in storytelling, for the first side, I'm mentally trying to create a character and then emotionally understand where they're at and then express that through dance while still doing the choreography, right? On the outside, me as Joel Casanova, I am really big into storytelling as a person, right? I love reading books. I love watching movies and like understanding what was good and what was bad about the movie. Like my brother and I watch movies and then we like think about them and talk about them afterwards because we're writing our own stories. So now we're writing stories that we do and we're constantly trying to be like, how does this make sense? Where does this work? And it takes a lot of mental energy to craft a story. It's really hard, right? So I'm now building my storytelling outside of dance, which helps me in my dance realm. So when I do musical theater or when I'm teaching musical theater for a student or if I'm choreographing for a musical theater production, all those areas I have found a dance life balance, right? So my dancing and my mental side of dancing helps my storytelling because I'm working out all these things that need to work together and I'm working all the things together in storytelling so that when I do it in dance, they help each other. So as I'm doing that, musical theater comes very easily to me as a performer, as a choreographer, and as a teacher because I'm used to combining those things together. And I tell my students to, for example, I have a student who does musical theater actively. And so as he's doing performances and then also learning dance, both of them help each other, right? He's into understanding the story, but he's also doing the dance side. And those are working for each other instead of just being individual compartmentalized aspects of his life, right? So the final one is personal social, right? So dancing for social confidence, right? Like I said, when I hit puberty, I was in dance, I was doing competition dance, we were physically building our bodies. So I had confidence in myself because I knew I was confident in dance. And this doesn't always translate, right? You need to actively think about this. Um, let me say, you can get more benefit out of it if you're actively trying to build those two things. So if you're like a parent or if you know someone who's dancing, you should definitely remind them that they work with each other. For me, as an adult, social dancing is one of those things that I do, right? So like I go out social dancing and dancing with someone else and trying to understand and partnering with another or with a lady or a woman, right? Or dancing with other people. Like I'm confident with myself in my dancing, which allows me to build myself socially. Like I'm okay talking to people. That's a hard one for me, not talking to people, but um asking someone to dance and then doing social dancing. That's like an area of my life that I'm not used to doing because I usually did hip hop. I was trained in it and it's a solo dance. Right? When I go to like country line dancing, that's also a solo dance you're just doing with a bunch of people. When you're doing jazz, ballet, tap, acro, lyrical, breaking, all the things, most of them are solo dances, even if you're doing with other people. But if you do salsa, bachata, country swing, East Coast swing, Lindy Hop, West Coast swing, right? All these ballroom, right? Rumba, foxtrot, waltz, all these things require another person. And you can learn the technique a little bit, but it's only when you actually start dancing with people that you're like, it's not just me anymore. And so me interacting with people helped me gain social confidence because of the dancing. So when I walk out into my life, I'm okay talking with ladies and men and talking with people and like being like, we're interacting in some kind of way, but I'm confident in myself as I did this because this is just like when I'm dancing. And the other way works the exact same way, right? So when I'm as a person, right? Super high achiever is like the goal, right? So like overachieving used to be like something that I did a lot. And so like I'm learning to have excellence and work hard and have a good work ethic while also being easy on myself. Like you don't have to be perfect every single time and do it right every single time. And so as I'm growing as a person, I take that mindset into my dancing. And so I'm like, okay, this is not being a perfectionist. This is dancing and learning how to do something you're not used to doing in that way. So it's less stressful when I'm doing something that I'm not comfortable with doing anyway. So all that kind of happened over this weekend because like the very first, we went to Colonial Williamsburg, right? So Colonial Williamsburg is like a 1775 type of old school park. It's like living history essentially, right? So you have like this colonial town that was rebuilt just like it was back in the day, and they do a lot of and educate people on the history of how America was founded essentially and how they separated from the British and the Revolutionary War and different, gun techniques and clothing techniques and making wigs and etching stuff and they have like actors who portray the different characters like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, Patrick Henry, Marquis de Lafayette, like just different people in history that were involved in colonial times in Virginia. And so we went there over the weekend, and the first day we had a dance party, and so they had like a big band like a swing band come out and play music, and so everyone was swing dancing, which I know how to do roughly, right? And so they're like me being willing to ask people to dance and then be okay with dancing at the level I was at, regardless of whether the person was less experienced or more experienced than myself. And so I'm like, this is for dancing. I don't have to do it perfect as a person or as a dancer. So I have less stress and I had enjoyed myself a whole lot more. And that's because the dancing for social confidence and the building myself as a person into my dancing was where those two things merged. Then on top of it, as a leader, right, I'm working mentally because I'm thinking of what the timing of the music, the moves that I need to do, and then what I want to lead this girl into. And then if it doesn't work, how am I going to fix it? Right? The leader in a social dance is mentally not going haywire. Hopefully you're not going haywire, but you can definitely go haywire. You're working a lot, like twice as much. Now the follow also has to work because they're trying to like interpret what you're trying to do and make sure they make the dance move smooth. But the leader's one who's initiating it has to think of what's happening and plan ahead of time so they can do it on time to the music, right? And then do it in a way that is smooth for the follow. So I'm like, hey, this is the clear signal that this is what we're doing, and you're like, okay, let's do it, right? And then the fitness side, it was so hot. It was so hot. Like we had a whole heat wave over this past weekend, and we're outside all the time, and now we're dancing outside as this band is playing. So because I've worked out and because I've danced for fitness, I know how to merge those two things together. So we danced for a long time, and I wasn't like winded after the first dance. So your dance life balance works in all three of those areas, and I'm sure there's more, but the fitness side, dancing for fitness and doing fitness for your dancing, the mental side, building your mind through dance, but also building your mind so that when you go into dance, it works for yourself. And then the personal social side, you're dancing, which helps you as a social creature, but also you're building yourself personally so that you can add it into how you interact with your dancing. Fitness, mental, personal, social. Those are three things that impact all people. And I experienced all three of them this past weekend. So it's a really conscious decision that we need to make when it comes to building all those things. You can stumble into them, but that's not what we're about here at B100 Dance. No, we're here to do things intentionally. So work out, which to help your dance, and then also do dance to do fitness, right? Build your mind in dancing so that you can absorb and push your mental boundaries, but also work your mind outside of dancing so you already have that strength that you're inserting into dancing when you take lessons or when you're performing or whatever, right? And then as a person, right, as a human being, you're a social creature who also builds as a person. So dancing will help you socially and social interaction wise, right? Especially if you're doing partner dancing. And then think about who you are as a person and gain self-awareness of yourself, and that's going to help you go into dancing, right? For me personally, I'm not used to social dancing because that's what I'm trained in. And then also, I understand that I have like overachieving perfectionistic tendencies. So when I realized that those two things work with each other, as a person, I was like, chill, chill. Like, allow yourself to grow in something and grow as a person. You don't have to do everything perfectly. So then when I entered into a place that I'm not as comfortable with to begin with, like bachata, salsa, swing, etc., now I'm like, oh, I can ask someone, they can say no, and I'm fine. I can ask someone else, we can start dancing, and if it's not perfect, it's fine. I'm still growing in this thing in the same way that I'm growing as a person. So like those things you can consciously build yourself in when it comes to dancing in life. Those things go together because you, the person, have the life, and dancing is part of your life, right? They're just not like you, the dancer, and you, the person. They're the same person, and so they should work with each other to benefit each other. And that's a conscious decision that you can make. Okay? So that's what the whole idea behind B100 Dance is about, right? So when we're doing things that are like hard in dance class, don't just leave it in dance class and then forget about it as soon as you walk away, right? If you're learning patience in dance with yourself, then you can learn to be patient outside, and that will help you as you bring it back to the next class. Okay? You can find the classes that you want to take at b100dance.com, right? Or you can just hit me up at b100dance on Instagram. So here's some information about the dance classes. This Wednesday, we're having a guest for the first time in forever because I've been focusing on the personal connect curriculum. So we're doing reaction videos, which we're going to continue doing reaction videos in the future, but I have a guest that I would really like for you guys to hear about. Just come back Wednesday. The next episode's going to be good. So have a great day, and here's that information. Bye.